right, I think we're live. I was gonna do this whole like intro and stuff, but I realized that I really don't live stream very much, and I don't have any experience doing it. So that's been put on my list of things to learn how to do, is how to like produce a live stream so that it has some production value to it. If anybody's out there, I started a little bit early here. I'm not going to jump right in. I'm going to wait till about noon, maybe 12:05 to actually jump in, but I just wanted to give people the opportunity to get in here. I do have slow mode turned on for the broadcast. I wonder if I can change that here. No, it doesn't seem so. So messages are going to come in like a minute at a time, so this may be pretty slow paced. For those of you that might be here, maybe not, I don't really know, and I don't know how to tell. This is all brand new to me. Not brand new, but it's, yeah, I don't have any experience doing this. So we're going to muddle through it together. But if those of you that are watching this right now are paying attention, or if there's anybody out there right now, essentially what we're going to do is I'm going to open up and sort of just talk a little bit about my story. It's not a real long one, and I just want to put this out here, and I'll say it again before we get officially started. I'm well aware that there are other people out there that have it maybe a lot harder than I do. I don't walk a day in your shoes, so I don't know what you're going through, but just know that my speaking out on this is not an attempt to be callous or selfish. It's just me sharing the events that occurred with my participation with the company DarkPulse. So yeah, we'll get started here in a few minutes. If anybody has any questions, you could start logging them in the chat. I don't know how many people are going to end up attending this. I don't want to say that we're going to have hundreds of people. I think that would be a stretch, but we may have a lot. And so it would be cool to sort of get this tested to see how quickly chats come in. I'm actually going to pull up the live stream on my phone and see if anything looks different to me. There's an ad from Pilot Institute. My channel's monetized, and whenever an ad pops up, I always skip it. But it's funny because like I skip it, but I would never encourage anybody else to. I'd be like, hey, watch the ads, it's fine. Okay, Jordan Handworker. So that came through. How long ago? Oh, let's show. It was held for review. You son of a bitch. All right, so we're good there. It looks like we have 8 people on watching. I'm going to turn the volume down. That'll sort of be my fail-safe in case I stop seeing things happening on my OBS. Yeah, so anyway, I got derailed there. I don't want to come off as insensitive or callous. I know that I am at the end of the list of a long list of people that have been waiting on payment. So again, I don't want to seem insensitive to that plight. I just want to share my story. And I know there are a lot of you out there that have been gathering information, and I think some of the information I have could be helpful. Like I said in a post on StockTwits, this isn't something that will necessarily be groundbreaking. In fact, I don't expect a lot of you to be surprised by some of the things I have to say, and you may not walk away feeling any more validated than you already are. So I'll just be clear on that. It's like I said, not a long story. I do have it broken down here. You'll see me looking at my screen every once in a while to sort of just reference the notes. There's just been so much in the span of, I think at this point, let's see, the whole situation started in February in terms of when I started with DarkPulse to now. So 6 months, a lot of stuff's happened, but not necessarily all at once. It's been stuff that has, been a hurry up and wait situation. We'll get something in place, and then I won't hear from people for like 2 or 3 weeks. That was, especially at the beginning, that was the reality of it. Something would be talked about, something would be discussed, you'd agree upon something, you'd come up with a plan for that, particular situation or issue, and then nothing for like weeks at a time sometimes. Towards the end, once we got started with the pipeline project, things moved a little faster and there was more going on at once. So that was a little bit easier to recall just because it was like a constant feed of stuff going on. But It's 11:59 my time. We'll get started here in the next couple of minutes. Looks like we've got 17 people on, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I did see, and I'll say this now because it doesn't really play into the timeline too much. This morning, my StockTwits account was suspended, which I thought was hilarious. I don't really care. I don't use StockTwits. I'm not an investor. I'm not a day trader. I don't do any of that shit. I don't understand it. So it's one of those things where I really was just on monitoring what was being said, dating back to like July. And that's the only reason that I created the account, was just so I could easily get in and out and just see what was going on. But yeah, for whoever decided to report my account and get it suspended, nice try. I mean, I'll give you that. Imagine if we were all standing in your room right now. You know, that was something, and I don't want to get off topic because it is noon now, and I don't want to waste people's time. But that was something that a friend of mine said, or was it a friend of mine, or was it a video I saw on Instagram? I can't remember. But, you know, she was talking about not getting discouraged about, like, low subscriber numbers, low follower numbers, and likes and stuff like that. Because she was like, you know, I've only got 2,500 people that follow me on Instagram, but if 2,500 people came up to me and said that they loved my work, I'd be overwhelmed. And, like, that's the exact same principle. We've got 18 people. If 18 people were standing in this room right now listening to me talk, it would be kind of crazy, even though it's, you know, really not that high of a number, but 22 now. Okay, yeah, as the numbers sort of start to filter in, I will get started with some preliminary stuff that everybody should be aware of, especially those close to the whole DarkPulse situation or with vested interest in it. There were 4 main people that I interacted with throughout my time at DarkPulse, and I'm going to list them off in order from interacted with them a lot to interacted with them very little. Thank you, Jordan, for keeping track. So the 4 people, and for those of you that didn't hear it when I was talking before we got started, I do have notes here in front of me, so you may see me looking at my screen. It's just so that I can keep my thoughts organized because, like I said, it's been 6 months, and some of the stuff was very intermittent, so it was hard to remember a lot of the stuff that happened. Anyway, 4 people that I interacted with in order from most to least. Matt Coppage, he was my direct manager, boss. That's the guy that I reported to, basically. Lori Murphy, she worked, I don't know her official job title or what she does on a day-to-day, but from my understanding, she works in like an accounting or finance capacity for the company. Joe Catalino, who is listed, again, I didn't get any official like job title when I was in there, but just based upon what I see on the internet, he is the CSO, I believe, of the company. And then, of course, Dennis O'Leary, CEO, CFO, and COO. Those are the 4 people that I interacted with while working at DarkPulse. There were a couple others. Like, I know that I had some very limited conversation with Justin, but in terms of like day-to-day, like operational, how I do my job, he really wasn't relevant, with all due respect, to what I was doing. So Ken Evans just asked a question. I'm going to mostly save questions for the end, but I do want to address this. I was the guy flying the drone. And so what he's referencing is on July 19th or 20th, can't remember, and one of the tweets was deleted that was included in, so I can't really narrow it down too surely. There was a picture posted of me flying a drone on the DarkPulse Twitter account. And there were a lot of questions about the validity of that image. A lot of people asking, you know, is this real? This guy's wearing long sleeves in the middle of July. Where the hell is this being taking place at? It was in Pennsylvania, middle of July. Pennsylvania is very humid, very hot in the middle of the summer. So I was wearing long sleeves. And the validity of that picture did come into question. And I could see how somebody would ask that question. The fact of the matter being, when you're working on a natural gas pipeline, in most cases, you're required to wear FR clothing, and FR clothing was required for the pipeline that we were working on. So as much as I hated having to do it, yeah, I did have to wear long sleeves because it was the only FR approved clothing that you could wear on the pipeline in the middle of July, and it sucked. I'm not going to pull any punches with you. I mean, it was more breathable than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, but that fucking sucked. I won't pull any punches on that. But it was real. It was me. And the reason that I stepped up to answer your question had more to do with just sort of clearing me from any type of claims of deceit or claims of, fallacy or whatever the case may be. I didn't want to be associated with something that could be considered sketchy. So I wanted to get out there, and I'll be honest too. Part of it was, I just wanted to be a good employee, and just speak up and say, hey, look, you guys are speaking about something that's going on. Here I am to validate that we are actually doing work, and that we are actually getting the job done that we were assigned. We're out in the field. So it was never a slight towards anybody that is currently faced with financial plight due to any interaction they had with DarkPulse or a subsidiary of DarkPulse. It was purely just getting out there and going, hey, look, this is a real image. We are actually out there doing work. And on that note, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to get out in front of it. Matt Coppage is the guy that, again, is my boss, my manager. He's the one that brought me on board with DarkPulse. A lot of what I'm about to share with you is a lot of interaction with him, but I want to just get out in front of it now. Matt Coppage is a solid dude. Like, that dude is, he's got moral fiber. He is got a lot of integrity. I appreciate what he's done for me, and he's defended and supported my stance through this entire situation. Like, I could not ask for a better support system in terms of a direct report. So anything that I say in this timeline that might allude to, Matt relaying information to me that isn't true, I trust him with everything. Whatever he's telling me is information that he's getting directly from the top. So whether that's good or not isn't on him. Through this whole thing, I just want to be very, very clear that Matt Coppage is a solid dude. And on that note, it got a little dark outside, so I'm going to turn a light on here. There we go. Okay, it is 12:06. I don't want to waste people's time. Let's talk a little bit about the timeline. So again, I do have a sheet here I'm going to be referencing as I go down through. Ken, I'm going to be answering that question about contract versus employment work. So February 2023, Matt Coppage reached out to me about being a contracted drone pilot for DarkPulse. The idea being I would be 1099'd under DarkPulse to work as a contractor for them for their upcoming pipeline inspection project. During those initial conversations, a thing that I stood on that I really wanted to be clear with Matt and the leadership at DarkPulse on was that for me, flexibility in my schedule was key. Like, I wanted to help, I wanted to show up, do a good job, and share the that was a reaction to Jordan's comment. Share the skills and the knowledge that I have as a drone pilot with them, and be able to be an effective part of their puzzle for how they accomplish these pipeline inspections. But really, I had a lot of pokers in the fire. I am a part owner and a shareholder for the droning company. Some of you are aware of that from some of the research you've done on me. I also have built this brand, the Drone Geek, from the ground up. This is sort of like my passion project, my baby. I'd really like for this to be a viable source of revenue for me sometime in the near future, hopefully. But this has been a project that's been in the works for 3 years. So getting into my work with DarkPulse, being approached as the idea of being like a contracted drone pilot for DarkPulse, the whole idea being it would allow me the flexibility I needed to continue to invest in the 2 projects I already had going, plus be able to dedicate time to DarkPulse and what they needed me to do. So that was the initial conversation in the beginning of February. After we sort of talked that out a little bit, Matt went back to the drawing board. He said, hey, I'll get back to you when I learn a little bit more. I have more details for you on when the project will start, and then we'll get you set up with the 1099 forms and all that good shit. As far as pay went, I believe the contractor position, and I can't remember for sure, and this was all stuff that was talked over the phone, so I could be off on this, but I know I'm in the ballpark. The initial compensation was $20 to $25 an hour, which, if you're not familiar with commercial UAV drone pilot market, that's pretty low, $20 to $25 an hour. Typically, when I'm hired by a company for my company, Drone Geek Productions, which is another, it's an S-prop that I own, that I do business for, like mostly multimedia work. But anyway, when I do business with people, typically my rate is somewhere in the ballpark of $125 an hour. I can flex on that depending upon like budgetary requirements from the client, as well as the market that I'm serving to, and the involvement of the project. That can fluctuate a bit, but on average, I usually charge about $125 an hour. So it was a little low, but the idea was these projects were going to be long span projects where we would get 2 or 3 weeks worth of work at a time. So that would be 8 hours a day for 2 or 3 weeks worth of work. And in that point, I'm sort of like, okay, I can budge on that number and do something a little bit more reasonable and feasible, because it's guaranteed work coming through the door. It's not something I have to go out and search for. It's being brought to me, so there's value in that. So in terms of how we go from there, mid to late February, Matt reached out to me again. And at that point, he had sort of, I think he had conversations with leadership about my position and how I would play into the company. Again, the original idea being that I'd be a contractor, but then Matt approached me and asked if I'd be open to an hourly position. So I would be an official employee of DarkPulse at that point. When he presented that to me, of course, my first thought was, okay, that sort of takes a little flexibility out of my schedule. I can no longer say to him, hey, I'm not available, if he needs me for a pipeline project and I've got something going on that week. It sort of removes that completely. At that point, though, I was I'd just gotten out of a career as a marketer and a corporate communications consultant for a variety of different companies. And, I hadn't been really working full time for a while. I'd been doing a lot of piecework, contractor work, building my S-Prop. And for anybody that has ever owned their own business, whether it's an S-Prop, whether it's an LLC, whatever, it's never a guarantee that money's going to come through the door. So it was spotty, and it was hard to make ends meet sometimes. And I burned through a lot of my own savings just trying to make that work. So when he presented this opportunity for more consistent work on an hourly basis full time, I wasn't going to ignore that. And so the only thing that I wanted to confirm with them was that I would have the flexibility in my schedule that I needed to still give attention to the projects that I had in place, being the droning company and the Drone Geek. And, Matt, being a super reasonable guy, he was like, you're hourly. If you're not on the clock, it's none of my business what you're doing. And as long as we communicate and get out in front of your schedule, we can make just about anything work. And so when he assured me of that, I was like, cool, let's do it. I'll come on as an hourly employee. At that point, I believe the rate went up to $30 an hour. And at some point in that conversation, again, this was over the course of several weeks, so this morphed kind of quickly. The position went from a drone pilot to what they called a field asset manager. So I would still be expected to fly the drone on the pipeline inspections and any other drone operations that they had acquired as far as projects went. But I would also be obligated to inspect all of the UAV and UAV adjacent assets that they had, keep an inventory of them, make sure that their firmware was up to date, make sure that all the parts were in good working order. That was what came on with that additional role as a field asset manager. So I was approached about that idea. At that point, I told him that I was tentatively accepting that, but we sort of went radio silent for a while. He had to go back and just sort of figure out some pieces on his end. That rolls us into March. And again, March was really largely a pretty quiet month. Nothing really happened at that point. There was some back and forth with trying to get Joe, Dennis, Matt, myself, and I think there was one other guy. It might have been Justin. Do not quote me on that one, though. I know there was at least one other guy involved in that meeting for a secondary interview. We were finally able to get that secondary interview scheduled for 5:30 p.m. on March 22nd. I was late for that meeting pretty badly. Matt texted me and asked me if I was still going to be able to make it to the meeting. I was in Texas at the time for a project for the droning company. So I wasn't actually in the time zone that I was normally in. So for me, 5:30 was actually, I think, 4:30. So I thought I had another hour and I didn't. But anyway, I got into the meeting. We had the meeting. And essentially, it was their way of vetting me out to make sure that this whole idea of bringing me on as an hourly employee was going to make sense. After the conversation happened, shortly thereafter, Matt did finally reach out to me and say, hey, they definitely want to do this. Let's bring you on $30 an hour as a field asset manager. And yep, I accepted because of the conversation that I had had with him about flexibility in my schedule. Other than that, though, March was really just a largely very dead month. Not a lot happened in that time span. April is where things started to pick up a little bit more. So I was officially sent my paperwork for employment, my W-4, my I-9, and a direct deposit sheet on April 13th. And it took me about a week to get back to them because I was busy hammering out some details about a new office that I was supposed to move into. To this day, I'm still not in there, ironically enough. So it's not the only thing I'm waiting on. But anyway, yeah, it took me about a week to get back to them with all of the signed documentation. On April 21st is when I had all of that signed and into them. So as of April 21st, I was officially, in writing, ink dried, a full-time employee for DarkPulse on an hourly pay basis. On April 24th is when I really started to do some substantial work for them. Matt and I went out and we inspected 3 locations that there were DarkPulse assets on. 2 of the locations were in the northern tier. I believe they were both in Tioga County. It makes sense. I can't remember exactly the route that we took. I know at least one of them was in Tioga County. The other location was in northeast Lycoming County. One of the 2 locations in the northern tier had a storage locker facility on it. It was just basically a small business for storage facilities. And the other one was a larger property. It had a double wide on it with an excavator, and then it had a shipping container that had a bunch of assets from a company that I suppose DarkPulse acquired. It was a lot of like wildlife and game conservation equipment, like I'm talking, boat motors, stuff like that. So we had all this stuff on this property, and then the third location in northern Lycoming County in Pennsylvania was essentially like a pull your camper or RV or large trailer here and keep it here. And there we had a Toyota Tundra, I believe is the model. We had a trailer with a lot of UAV assets in it, and we also had a side-by-side on a trailer as well. So basically the whole idea of that trip on the 24th was to familiarize me with these 3 locations and sort of show me what was at each of the locations and explain what the equipment was used for and where it was from and how we would be utilizing it in the future. So from there, let's see, April 24th. 2 days later, this is just something I threw in there as a note, Matt did request that I help him build the contractor pilot network, the idea being that we would have multiple contracted 1099 drone pilots at our disposal, for lack of a better term, that we could reach out to and essentially ask to help with the projects that we were doing, the pipeline inspections and whatever else we'd do with UAVs. So I reached out to a couple of guys that I knew locally that would be interested in that type of work, and that was pretty much that. So that brings us to May then. So May 1st, I was officially brought onto their email server. I was given my own company email. And then at that point, they were able to issue me trainings that I would need to complete and pass for certifications that would be required for work on a natural gas pipeline. It was a lot of job safety stuff. It wasn't anything too involved, but that's when that whole process started, was around May the 1st. Now, that stuff sort of got put on hold for me because keep in mind, I'm still an hourly employee at this point. I'm working with Matt, communicating with Matt about some of the other projects that I've got going on. And I had an upcoming trip to Denver, Colorado. In May of 2023, there was the AUVSI Exponential 2023 Drone Conference that I was attending on behalf of the droning company. And this was cleared with Matt. Matt gave me approval. I was allowed to go to that with no issues in terms of interference with stuff we were doing for DarkPulse. A lot of that stuff was moving slowly as far as like developing the pipeline inspection project and getting the pieces in place for that. And there wasn't a lot that I could do aside from those trainings besides that. So I didn't get on top of those trainings right away. I went to Denver and did my thing there. It was day 2 of my trip to Denver that I was contacted by Matt. He had mentioned that Joe Catalino had asked if I would be interested in meeting him at the expo. And of course, you know, I was at that point pretty excited because it's like, that's a dude with a pretty high hierarchy in the company. He was a CSO. It'd be kind of cool to rub elbows with him and sort of get to know him a little bit better. So I said, yeah, you know, absolutely. And then after reaching out to Joe, the first time was unsuccessful, but he did call me back. And we sort of talked about, you know, what we wanted to accomplish while we were together. He wanted to walk the show, and he was wondering if I could get him in. And, you know, I didn't know at that point if I could. I knew there was an entry fee, but I was going to try to get him in under the droning company umbrella, just help a guy out. But the other thing that he wanted was to get into contact with the company Drone Tag. Now, there had been a conversation that I'm not privy to the details on, so I'm not even going to speculate on it. But at some point, there was a conversation between people at DarkPulse and the company Drone Tag. Drone Tag issues remote ID devices for the upcoming remote ID legislation that's going into place for UAV operations. I don't know, but I think that the conversation had to do with DarkPulse acquiring some of these RID modules for use on a drone that was supposed to be in development by DarkPulse. During that conversation at some point, I wasn't involved with the conversation, but I was informed that Drone Tag went completely silent. They went completely radio silent. And basically, they asked if I could get them hooked up with Drone Tag. Now, I had a good professional relationship. I still have. I don't want to say like it's gone now. It's not. I have a good professional relationship with the guys at Drone Tag. Like, I've worked with them closely on some projects. I did a review video on one of their remote ID modules. So I've got rapport with these guys. And I don't know if Joe knew that ahead of time or not, but he asked if I could get them hooked up with Drone Tag. And so I said, yeah, that's cool. I suppose I can try. And it made me a little uncomfortable, just because I didn't know what the nature of that conversation was going to be like. But I reached out to the CEO of Drone Tag, basically told him what Joe was looking for, and he agreed to meet with Joe. So we got Joe into the show. He sat down with myself, the CEO of Drone Tag, and then one of my business partners from the droning company. And that conversation was, I don't know what Joe got out of it. I didn't get a lot out of it. It was largely unproductive. It didn't seem like there was a lot of headway made. There was a lot of beating around the bush about the radio silent part, about when they'd be manufacturing their remote ID modules at scale. And that was pretty much the substance of the conversation. And it was just sort of a real, I don't know. I felt like it was a waste of everybody's time, but that's just my personal opinion. But again, I was just trying to be a good employee and get him hooked up with a person that he wanted to continue a conversation with. So after that, we went our separate ways. Joe left, and then I continued the rest of the show. I finally got back into my hometown area around the 12th or 13th. I can't remember if that spilled into the 13th or not. I think I'd got home the 12th maybe. Anyway, so I get home from Denver on the 12th. During that time, again, I can't emphasize this enough. I was not on the clock for DarkPulse. I was an hourly employee, and I was not logging hours for DarkPulse. But at some point during my trip there must have been a conversation. Again, I don't know that for sure, but my boss, Matt, approached me and asked me, or informed me rather, that there were some questions about why I was attending a drone conference on behalf of another company while I was on DarkPulse time. That was one of the places that Matt showed up for me, and one of the many places that Matt showed up for me and defended me and stood behind me on that. Made it clear to the people asking those questions. I don't know who asked what. Essentially, hey, he's hourly. He wasn't on the clock. I approved this time off so that he could go to this show. And, quite honestly, in an intangible way, he really benefited DarkPulse by hooking us up with somebody that he had a direct contact to. It was, an intangible he brought to the company. He's well connected in the industry. And that benefited us while he was there, despite the fact that he wasn't on the clock. So that somehow brought us to our next step in all of this, and this is an important detail moving into the later stages of where we're at, that evolved into a conversation about making me a salaried employee. Now, when this idea was presented to me, of course my first thought was, I don't know how I feel about that, because as I've been saying, a really important factor in all of this is that I have flexibility in my schedule. I have a few people that I consider peers, colleagues, but I also look up to them in the content creation for specifically the drone industry, that said to me on several occasions, look, don't let people dictate your schedule. You dictate your schedule, and that's how you're going to get ahead. And, I found that to be largely true when I put it into practice. So I have this concerning proposition in that they want to bring me on as salaried. Now, there's a pro and a con to this. I've been working for professionally for how old am I? I'm 31. For 13 years at this point, I've been working professionally. I understand how salary works. The pro is you get a slightly higher pay rate, not to be confused with potential earning, being able to earn more. Obviously, hourly employees have the potential to earn more because they can work more hours and get paid for those hours. But salaried usually gets an increased pay rate. And also, you get that consistent guaranteed pay on a regular basis. So obviously that was an extremely enticing side of it. But again, the con being when you go salary, you're essentially always on the clock. So it didn't matter what else I had going on. I was looking at having to drop anything I was doing at any given moment and serve DarkPulse. So, I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. I had another conversation with Matt, again, expressing the concern about the lack of flexibility in my schedule if I go salary. And, he expressed to me that obviously going salaried would change the nature of the conversation. But he also promised me that he would do his best to work around the other projects that I had because he understood that they meant a lot to me. And again, another he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to make that promise to me and put that out there. So I appreciate that flexibility that he showed me. So after thinking it over, after realizing that, I really wanted something a little bit more consistent in terms of pay, it would help me ground myself financially after draining a lot of my own personal savings and trying to make my company work. That's when I decided, you know what, let's do this. If Matt can be flexible with me, I can give them a little bit more ground, take a little bit more money, and get it more consistently. So I agreed to it. I said, yep, let's do the salaried thing. Let's get signed on. So that document was dated, the offer letter, to go from an hourly employee as a drone pilot to a salaried employee as a field asset manager, which I was already a field asset manager, which is a weird verbiage in that offer letter. That was dated for May the 5th. It was sent to me on May the 8th, and then I had signed it. Let's just make sure. I'd signed it after considering it, thinking it over, on May the 23rd. That also played into some things that I needed to get accomplished for the droning company, because when I was at that Denver show, I was interviewing just as many people as we possibly could from a variety of different companies. So I had somewhere in the ballpark of 56 3 to 7 minute interview videos that we would post to the droning company's YouTube channel that I needed to get produced. So it took up a lot of my time. And I was able to work DarkPulse stuff in on an hourly basis between that time and the 23rd, when I officially submitted my acceptance of the salaried position offer. But once I was in that position, the salaried position was semi-monthly. So the agreement was that I'd be paid $65,000 a year. That was my salary. And I'd be paid on the 15th and 30th of every month. That was the agreement. So then that rolls us into June. June was really just like a dead month again, not a lot going on. I'd asked several times, what can I be doing? What can I be doing other than inventory, other than waiting for what's going to happen? What are some of the things that I can be doing? And it was really just like sort of a waiting game. We needed to wait for equipment approval, or like rental equipment approvals to go through. We needed to wait for insurance policies to fall into place, and we needed to wait for trainings to come through that would be required for us to pass to be able to do the work on the natural gas pipeline. So yeah, June, not a whole lot going on there. I did do some inventorying of the Tioga County locations, as well as the northern Lycoming County location, those places that we talked about a little bit earlier. It wasn't until July that things really escalated quickly, from not really doing much of anything to doing a lot all the time. So on July 10th, Matt let me know that we were knocking on the door of getting this pipeline project started. There were a lot of pieces that fell into place. We were just waiting on a few more approvals from the client, as well as from leadership, and then we'd be set to go at that point. There was one last minute in-person training that I had to attend to sort of just show my knowledge. I had to go through and take these trainings online. And then after that, I had a guy from some board, I can't remember, sorry, don't retain all that shit. Basically a guy that was certified to verify that people that are working in these environments are knowledgeable enough and have passed the trainings to an extent that they're safe to work in these environments. So he came through after I took these online trainings and basically quizzed me in person on everything. So I had to go through and walk through this entire training course with this guy, explain to him everything that I knew, answer questions that he had based on different information that I needed to know while I was out in these sensitive, volatile, dangerous areas, and I passed. Everything was good. July 18th was the next date that sort of got the ball rolling very quickly. I received a text from Matt saying that there was one last online training that I needed to do. I prioritized it. I got it done. And then from there, I needed to go and purchase my own FR clothing. Now, okay, so Matt just messaged me. See, he said the DOT operations, that. So anyway, that was the guy that was, basically putting me through that training. I apologize for all the layman's shit here. It's been a lot of stuff all at once. Anyway, July 18th, I take that last training. We get that out of the way. I go on, and now I'm tasked with having to purchase my own FR clothing. So as far as PPE goes, it was required for the pipeline. I was required to have a hard hat, safety glasses, steel-toed boots, and FR clothing. That was it. There was also an option of having a high-vis vest. Out of that list, the things that were provided for me by DarkPulse, no charge to me. Of course, I couldn't keep it, but it was the hard hat, the safety glasses, and the high-vis vest. Those were the three things that I was provided. The FR clothing and the steel-toed boots, I was required to go out and actually purchase those up front, and then I would be reimbursed for them later. That was the agreement. So I did. That's not unusual. That's not abnormal. I've worked in jobs before where to do my job, I need to purchase equipment, or I need to purchase a service or a training or whatever, and then I'll be reimbursed for it later. So happily wanted to get this pipeline project started. I was excited to get out in the field and fly the drone and actually do what I was hired to do. If you're not familiar with FR clothing and the pricing on it, it's salty. It's real salty. Like, I got 3 shirts and 2 pairs of pants for $403. That's what it cost. Again, at the time when I was purchasing it, yeah, it hurt, and it was like, yeah, it's really salty. But I knew that I thought that I would be reimbursed for it. So I purchased it. No big deal. Saved my receipt, put it through the system to have it be reimbursed, and it's still sitting in the system right now. But it was submitted and everything. There was nothing that I had to wait for. I already had boots, so there was no problem there. But once I had the FR clothing, it was time to go. So we actually went out the next morning. We started the pipeline project on July 19th. And the first day went really, really smoothly. Now, when we started this project, it was 160 miles of pipeline that we needed to inspect for methane detection, or for methane leaks, I'm sorry. What we were doing, and this is a question that a lot of you were asking me on Twitter, on other social media platforms, on StockTwits, just speaking out into the ether, what was I doing? What was Matt doing? What was our role there? We used the DJI Matrice M300 RTK, combined with an OGI camera, which is an optical gas imaging camera, to detect methane leaks coming up out of the pipeline. Now, all this technology, all this equipment that we're using is legit. Like, I saw it firsthand, used, it all worked. We weren't able to, not that we weren't able to, but it wasn't the goal to detect the leaks live. The whole point of it was take it out, record 10-minute clips at a time. And if you didn't stop it at 10 minutes, sometimes the camera, the OGI camera that was actually writing the data to the memory card that we had on board, would overwrite the previous clip. So in order to make sure that the information that we were collecting through the camera was, had a high level of integrity and was legit, we had to make sure that we stopped every 10 minutes and started a new recording. So we'd go for these 10-minute increments, flying over top of the pipeline at around 5 miles an hour, just recording the pipeline so that we could review the footage later and find the leaks, or if there were any leaks, find them and identify them so that the client would know where they were at, and then from there the client would address those leaks however they do that. Our job was to find them and report them. That's it. And that's how we did it. So day 1 goes by, everything's good to go. There was at some point, I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, at some point there was a picture posted of me between July 19th and July 20th on the DarkPulse Twitter page, flying the drone in my FRs. I had a long sleeve yellow FR, which I have, it's over there. I'm not going to get up and get it. That'd be stupid. But the shirt is right over there. You know what? Fuck it. I'm doing it. just to eliminate any speculation that I was the guy. I know that AI obviously throws a monkey wrench in that sometimes in terms of going, oh, that's me, that's my face, isn't it? This is the shirt. This is the shirt that I was wearing, long sleeves, everything like that, and it's FR. Where is it? Right there, yeah. It's an FR brand, so everything about it is legit. I'm gonna throw that back over there. There's a picture posted of me on the DarkPulse Twitter flying the M300 with that shirt on, and the question of the photos being old or faked came into play in the comments on that post. I responded to that post with a picture of myself wearing the shirt. And I know that there were some people that were upset about that. They felt like I was playing a gotcha game, and I actually wasn't. Here's the thing. I know Matt can verify this for me. Not that I'm holding him to that he would need to, but if anybody took the time to ask him, he could definitely verify it. He and I take a lot of pride in our work. We were very proud of the fact that we were out there finally doing this job that Matt, and I'm going to give him all the credit in terms of getting it set up. I did what I had to do just to be legit and to be kosher and be able to be out there safely. But Matt really was the one that put all of the pieces in place from beginning to end. The fact that I wasn't paid is a crime, but the fact that Matt Coppage wasn't paid and the money that he's owed, and I'm not going to speak on that. I'm going to let Matt decide if and when he wants to do that. It's fucking criminal. That dude is solid. He built that entire project by himself. He put all the pieces in place by himself. It's sad. Anyway, we take a lot of pride in our work. And so when I was in a situation where I felt sort of personally attacked for being a part of sketchy behavior, potentially, I wanted to address it. And not to mention, there was some value in me speaking up to shareholders of the company as well, because I know largely those were the people that were taking issue with the idea of the photo being faked. We were out there actually doing something. We were earning tangible money. We were earning money. I don't have the exact figures, but I know the project was somewhere in the ballpark of like $80,000. And when you take all of the expenses and shit out, we were going to net somewhere in the realm of like 45 to 50 grand. I don't know those exact numbers off the top of my head, nor have I think I've ever been given access to those exact numbers. But that was just sort of like the nature of the job. Was it going to pay off all of the shit that DarkPulse had? I don't know. I don't know the financials of DarkPulse as the company, so I can't speak intelligently on that. But the point being, we were earning money for the company. And so when the validity of what I was doing was being called into question, I understand that was coming from a place of actual deep concern and probably some trauma in terms of misinformation at some point or another, maybe. I understand where that was coming from, but I wanted to nip it in the bud. So don't take that personally. That was never a personal jab at anybody. That was never a gotcha moment. I was never trying to make anybody look foolish. I was merely standing up for the work that I was doing. That's it. So that picture was posted. From there, things devolved very quickly. We went out, and for the next couple of weeks, we really spent a lot of time in the field. There were 3 days that I can recall that we weren't out in the field. One of those days was a rain out. We couldn't put the drone in the air. There's no waterproof capabilities on that drone for a long term, especially not the camera. So the way that it was raining that day, there was just no way that we were going to be able to fly. So we grounded operations that day. The other day, I had a terrible case of food poisoning, like probably one of the worst I've ever had. And then another day following, Matt had a doctor's appointment for one of his kids, so we didn't go out in the field those 3 days. Our goal for this 160-mile pipeline project was to get about 6 miles per day. We wanted to inspect about 6 miles per day. That would put us at 4 weeks for the entire project, which was deemed reasonable by the client. So that was the goal. And to put into perspective how hard Matt and I were working and why we sort of took that picture, calling the validity of that picture into question, personally, we were averaging about 9 miles a day. It doesn't sound like a lot, but we were doing 30% more than we agreed upon with the client, and then that we projected for the whole project. So we were taking this time frame of 4 weeks, and we had parsed it down to about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, somewhere in there, if you don't count those 3 days that we weren't in the field, obviously. So we were busting balls to get that done. It was a lot of hard work. Again, we were out in the sun, middle of July, Pennsylvania, long sleeves, FRs, jeans, boots, hard hats. It was hard work, you know, and it's not the hardest work. Obviously, construction guys work a lot harder. You know, I feel bad for those guys after getting experience on days like those in clothing like that. But I'm not going to pretend it was easy. You know, those were long, grueling days sometimes. Anyway, next couple of days or weeks or whatever it was at that point, you know, we just continued work on the pipeline, and there was nothing of real consequence or event that happened. July 31st rolled around, and that's sort of when all of this part and why I'm here posting this happened. So I've worked as a salaried employee paid on a semi-monthly basis before. I've had experience doing that, and I know that the rule of thumb typically is if a payday falls on a weekend, you get paid on the closest weekday to that payday. So if the payday falls on a Saturday, you should get paid on the Friday before that Saturday. And if the payday falls on a Sunday, you should get paid on the Monday following that Sunday. So when the payment didn't come through on Sunday the 30th of July, which is when it was due, I didn't really freak out because it was not abnormal at all. That was something that had happened in the past, and everything was made good the next day. So I was just like, all right, yeah, we'll wait. Tomorrow's going to be when it hits. Again, not really thinking about it. That was just sort of an unconscious decision that I made when I saw the money didn't hit the account on that Sunday. It wasn't until I woke up that Monday, the 31st, and saw that there was still no payment in the account that I realized that maybe we were going in the wrong direction. So I just want to say this. I had been monitoring the StockTwits website since that picture of me validating the photo that was posted on the DarkPulse Twitter came out. I'd been monitoring StockTwits, just wanted to sort of get a feel for what was being posted there. And most of you, super cool. You know, you even came to my defense on a few times, you know, talking about, you know, the validity of me, what my role was with DarkPulse. Some of you really stepped up to the plate and gave me the benefit of the doubt. So I thank you, because I didn't deserve the benefit of the doubt, but you gave it to me anyway. And, you know, I appreciate that. Some of you, though, I'm just going to say it, act like complete fucking animals on that website. It's crazy, some of the shit you post. If I didn't have experience doing this already, YouTube, and responding to some of the most ridiculous shit I've ever seen, I would have had my feelings hurt. But you're dealing with somebody that is constantly being criticized on a public platform pretty much all the time. So for those of you that were trying to take jabs at me, including that person this morning that tried to, you know, take a jab at me by getting my StockTwits account suspended, yeah, try a little harder. Anyway, July 31st rolled around, no payment. At that point, because of the things that I'd seen on StockTwits, because of the things that I'd heard about the reputation of the company, the leadership of the company, and some of the business practices that they had practiced in the past. I'm specifically talking about some of the stuff I've read about Optilion. I was concerned. I was concerned because it's not like I'm unreasonable. I was raised in a small family-owned business. I know how hard it is to run a business, both from being raised in a small business environment by two entrepreneurs, but also running my own business. Even though it's just an S-prop, I get it. It's really hard. So I am reasonable. You didn't make payroll. Okay, you got to make that your priority, but I can understand and give you a little bit of grace. I can work on good faith, and we can move forward with this. The problem came in with the moving of the goalposts. So over the course of that week, starting on July 31st, there were several conversations with DarkPulse leadership, as well as Lori Murphy in the accounting finance realm, and then conversations between myself and Matt. On several occasions, with conversations between myself and Matt and leadership, or myself and Matt and Lori, or just Matt and those people, the goalposts were changed. So we'd go from, on Monday, we were told, oh, you know, there was some funding issues that happened. We're waiting for funding to come through. You know, there needs to be a conversation that needs to be had. Some pieces need to fall into place. Some documents need to be signed. You'll get paid probably this afternoon, but if not, it'll be first thing tomorrow morning. That would be Tuesday, August 1st. Okay, yep, that's cool. Yep, a little disappointed, but I get it. You know, go to bed, wake up, August 1st, no money. So we have a phone call with Lori that day. I remember specifically the conversation was with Lori that day. Again, same information. We're in a situation where we're waiting for funding to come through. We need some paperwork signed. We need to make sure that the pieces fall into place. And once that all happens, the funding will come through. We'll get you guys paid tomorrow. If not, it'll be Thursday at the latest. Okay. Yep. All right. Sure. That's still really disappointing, but okay. I understand. Wednesday rolls around. No money in the account. Again, there's reach outs. There's conversations. Same runaround over and over and over again. And it's just like slight variations on every excuse, every runaround that we get. Just it's infuriating. I'm not a perfect human being. I've not always been honest in my life, but I try to be. And especially as I mature and I become a middle-aged person, I really put a lot of value on that, like authenticity, honesty, and integrity. And it's one thing to not be sure of when the funding is going to come through. It's one thing to not be sure if you're going to be able to afford to pay us in the near future. It's another thing to me to just continue to give the runaround. And that's what I felt like was happening. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But again, day after day after day, we continued to get the same runaround with just slight variations on each story, on each explanation. After Wednesday, I informed Matt, because Matt had that day that we missed was that Thursday. Matt had a doctor's appointment for one of his kids that he needed to attend, so we wouldn't be going out in the field because this was largely a two-person job. Between all of the equipment and moving parts in actually conducting our jobs, you really needed two people to be efficient. So he said, we're not going out, just take the day off Thursday. I knew that ahead of time going into this, but I said to him leading into Thursday, hey, listen, if the money isn't in my account and the reimbursements for the FR as well as the mileage on my personal vehicle that I use to get to and from job sites, which I think is somewhere in the ballpark of $163 and some change, I said, if that's not all in my account by Thursday afternoon, I'm not showing up Friday, and I'm not showing up until I get paid. And, again, to Matt's credit, being just an awesome boss, he said, yep, I totally support that. I understand where you're coming from. It's a bummer. It's disappointing. But I'll stand by you. I'll defend you. I completely understand. At that point, my good faith was out. It'd be one thing if they had given me a date of, hey, we're not going to be able to pay until like August 9th, whatever. Just some date, throw date in there. Then, they probably could have gotten more out of me. But they just continued to move these goalposts. And I think it was because they were trying to inspire hope and continue to work off of my good faith. And that wasn't necessarily like a malice thing. I don't think that they were necessarily trying to milk me for as much as they could get out of me. I think that there's a possibility, a strong possibility, that they truly felt like the funding was going to come through any minute. It just never ended up happening. I don't want to take the blame off of them because I'll come back to this point. I was salaried. You knew when I was supposed to get paid. You knew how much I was supposed to get paid. And there wasn't even a notice ahead of time to let me know, hey, we might not make payroll. Like there's a distinct possibility we're not going to have the money to pay you come the 31st. That would have allowed me to go, okay, that's a bummer. Let's just put the project, let's stop work, which is a technical term in the industry and in this type of work. Let's stop work until we get paid. And I would have probably had much better feelings about leadership and about the way the company is run had that played out that way. I still would have been bummed and disappointed. I'd still be fighting to get my money that I was owed, but I certainly wouldn't have the hard feelings that I have now. So anyway, just continually giving the runaround. Thursday comes and goes, no payment. So late Thursday night, I texted Matt. I asked him how the doctor appointment went. Not going to get into those details. They're not my business. But I did tell him in that text message, hey, it is, after the end of business hours, whatever that would be. I think it was like 4:30. I think I mentioned in the text message or something, is the end of the day, is the point. Still no money in the account. I'm bailing on tomorrow. I will not be into work tomorrow, and I will not be in work until I get paid. And he, again, confirmed, understood, and supported that decision. So Friday rolls around. I don't go to work. Still no money in the account. That's when on Saturday, I sat down and I crafted an email to Dennis O'Leary, to Joe Catalino, and to Lori Murphy. And I also CC'd Matt Coppage in that, outlining all of the things that I was owed, all of the money that I was owed, and what they were for. I'm going to go ahead and read those off to you now. I've sort of pieced this together as I've told the story, but this is exactly what I'm owed as of today. $2,142.74 for the first missed paycheck. I'm not going to roll this into this finished figure here, but we've also missed another paycheck as of August 15th. Reimbursement for PPE required to do work on the pipeline that we were hired to do work for, $403, and mileage reimbursement on my personal vehicle to get to and from job sites, $163.75, a grand total of $2,709.49. Again, we've missed a paycheck since August 15th. So tack another $2,142.74 onto that, and that's where we're at. So I sent this email basically outlining what I was owed, demanding a concrete answer on when I would be getting that money, and also reminding them all that this isn't just a poor reflection on the company from an employee to employer basis. It's also a poor reflection on your employees. There was a comment made on StockTwits about somebody saying that I should take this as a lesson to save up 3 months worth of expenses as a cushion for events such as this. In practice, I actually agree with that person. Yeah, it's really super smart to have that much money saved up. In application, in principle, I totally disagree. And that was a comment that I found extremely asinine. Because here's the deal. Yeah, I probably should have had more money saved up. And I did have money saved up. It might not have been 3 months worth, but I certainly had enough of a cushion that I wasn't stressing too much over the first week or two of this. But here's where it really comes down to. You have to pay your employees. It's quite literally against the law not to pay an employee that's on your payroll. So for the person that decided to try to shift the blame onto me, that I should have been more diligent in my saving methods, kindly go fuck yourself. How about that? So anyway, I sent this email. Dennis got back to me with a response to that email on the morning of August 7th. That was at about 9 o'clock in the morning. Essentially, he just gave me the same runaround, different variation that we'd been getting for the entire week prior to that, that we were waiting on funding to come through, that some pieces needed to fall in place. He did add in this variation that there was a broker that they were working with that had been working on closing on a short-term bridge that would allow them to pay us by Wednesday. So at this point, you know, I hear from the guy that is in charge, the head honcho, the big cheese. This is the guy that's in charge of everything, that we've got a short-term bridge solution to get you guys paid by Wednesday. Okay. I'm going to mark that date on my calendar, Dennis. And I did. I told him that. I'm going to mark that date on my calendar, and I will follow up accordingly, depending upon how that all plays out. So that was what happened in that email chain. Really not much of note. There were a few exchanges back and forth there, just basically confirming that, you know, that things we were going to be following up. There was a second email that was sent to me on the side. Nobody else CC'd in it. Dennis asking me if I had a PayPal account because he wanted to pay me via his credit card through PayPal. Now, the kind, understanding, compassionate side of me saw that as a show of good faith, a good gesture. And if it was legitimately like him trying to bridge the gap for me and to take care of me, I just want to say, in all honesty, I appreciate the attempt. I really do. The fact that you even thought to do that, it was more than I was expecting. However, I declined. The reason being, I've got 4 years of experience in the finance industry. I worked as a marketer in a bank. I worked as a teller in a bank. I worked as a CSR in a bank. I know banking. I know how finances work in that regard. I did not want there to be a scenario where I get paid money out of pocket from Dennis and then have that come back and bite me in 2024 when tax season rolls around. I politely declined the offer and told him that any payment and reimbursement that would be processed to me had to flow through the books of DarkPulse, with the idea being all the taxes would be withheld, all of that shit would be taken care of for me, and I wouldn't get bit in the ass later on. So I politely declined, and that was pretty much the end of that conversation. Lori Murphy then reached out to me and asked me if there would be a good time for me the following day, which at this point is August the 8th, I believe. Yeah, it'd be August the 8th. There'd be a good time for me to chat with her, because she was very apologetic that nobody from leadership had reached out to me directly to explain what was going on via phone call and take accountability for what's going on. Everything that I was hearing to that point was either through a meeting that I was having in conjunction with Matt or directly from Matt himself that was being funneled down to me. So she apologized for that, and I appreciated the apology. We set up a phone call for 9:30 the following morning, which would be August the 8th. I want to make something else clear here. I've already made it clear that Matt Coppage is a good dude. Like, no matter what goes down with this, as it stands right now, Matt has been nothing but helpful and supportive, and he's a good dude. I'm going to tentatively put Lori Murphy in the same conversation, same part of the conversation. I know that we're dragging on here. We're almost to the end of the story. I just want to get this part out there. I don't know Lori the way that I know Matt, and that's why I'm putting that tentative asterisk on it. So I can't speak to her character the way that I can speak to Matt's character. What I will say, though, is that I think Lori is a good person stuck in a very hard situation. I think that she's trying to do what's best for the company, keep all the cylinders firing. I think that sometimes she's put in a position where she has to just sort of keep things moving. And I think that's where a lot of the runaround, a lot of the excuses comes in, is they want this operation to keep moving. And that's my opinion. So I have nothing personal against Lori Murphy. I think she's a very kind, sweet person, and she's just doing the best that she can. That said, the conversation that I had with Lori did not leave me feeling any better about this entire situation. She called, basically explained that she was sorry again, nobody reached out. She wanted to explain to me what was going on. I got the same runaround that I had been getting for the past week. There were two statements that she made in that phone call that really, this cemented the hard feelings for me in a big way. The first statement that she had was, "We need you to cut us some slack." It's easy to say. It's real easy to say when, it seems like things financially for them are in a much better place than they are for somebody like me, a working class person. Cut us some slack. Do you think that when my landlord comes to me and says, "Hey, we need rent," I can go, "Hey, cut me some slack," and they're going to be okay with that? Do you think that Verizon could reach out to me and go, "Hey, we need you to pay our cell phone bill"? Cut me some slack, man. Do you think it would happen with the internet? Do you think it happened with the clerk at the grocery store? No, it doesn't work that way. You can tell me to cut you some slack. I can't tell the people that I'm going to owe money to each month that I need them to cut me some slack. It doesn't work that way. Some companies can work on a little bit of good faith, but that runs out very quickly. So that was personally insulting to me, that I was expected to cut them slack for an agreement that they got into where they're obligated to pay me twice a month. That was an agreement that we made. I can't cut you some slack. So that was the first comment that was made in that conversation. The second one was having to do with the very murky and vague nature of my employment at the beginning of all of this. When I transitioned from the contractor part of the conversation, I was never officially brought on as a contractor. I was hired as an hourly employee first. So transitioning from the contractor conversation to the hourly employee agreement to the salaried employee agreement, Lori then said, "Well, we were hoping that you would be more flexible with us because we paid you for time that you weren't really doing anything." Interesting. Yeah, to me, that was the comment, and I'm still having trouble sort of containing my anger over that. That was an extremely insulting thing to say to somebody. Because first of all, that narrative, I'd nipped that right in the bud. I had been doing work. I'd been doing work within the scope and the scale that I was expected to do work. When I was assigned a task, I got it done. When I was asked to do something, I dropped what I was doing and I did it. It might not have been 8 hours a day out on a pipeline all day. It might not have been sitting down at a desk all day for 8 hours and working. No, it might not have been that stuff. But God damn it, I did work. And there's proof. I've got a paper trail to prove I was doing work through the entire time that I was salaried. So I don't want to hear this nonsense that I wasn't doing any work. I'm sorry that you made an agreement with me that benefited you by having more control over my schedule, and now that's not benefiting you anymore. I'm sorry that you made a bad deal. I can't help that. if you really wanted to utilize me to the fullest capacity, you should have had more for me to do at the very beginning. There should have been more direction for me at the beginning. So you throwing this whole idea that I wasn't working but collecting a paycheck at the beginning, fuck off with that. I have no time for that conversation. And I nipped that right in the bud. I corrected her immediately and said, nope, that's not true. Here's what I've been doing. I laid it out for her. I've been doing trainings. I've been doing inventorying. I'd been meeting with Matt. I'd been going over a game plan with Matt. I'd been in communication with Matt. I'd been talking about all the things that we were preparing for to do this pipeline project. Stop it. It's ridiculous. And it just comes back to this whole thing. First of all, it's an agreement, and you are legally obligated to pay me. I am a payrolled employee. You're legally obligated to pay me for the work that I put in. The agreement was I get paid semi-monthly on a salaried basis. If I was having performance issues and I wasn't doing enough for you, you needed to address that, and you didn't. You just let it go, and that's that. I thought I was doing a good job, and if I wasn't, I'm sorry, but the fact is I was doing what I was told, when I was told, and to the best of my abilities. The deal with salaried, and I'm just going to explain this one more time, is, yeah, you have greater control over my schedule, but you pay me the same rate no matter if I work 80 hours in a week or if I work 20 hours in a week. I get paid the same rate. Anyway, I'm going to go down this dark rabbit hole of anger over that, and I don't want to go there. I want to be constructive here. So from there, in that conversation, Lori had mentioned that, about the short-term bridge with the broker, all the shit that Dennis had mentioned to me the Monday prior to that, and basically said, payment will be coming on Friday. And I said, well, wait, Dennis said Wednesday. And she said, I think a more reasonable estimate would be Friday. Now, again, I don't know Lori well, but I know her better than Dennis. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put my trust in Lori here, and I'm going to say Friday. So I set my expectation for Friday. I did not budge or ever suggest that I was going to go back out into the field. I just merely stated that I would wait until Friday to see when the payment came through. Later on that day, around 3:30, Lori texted me and asked me if I'd be going out with Matt in the field the next day. Now, Matt had mentioned to me, because he had some greater obligation to the project, and again, I want to be careful how I phrase that, because Matt had some ties to the project that I did not have. He wanted to go out and finish the project in good faith for the client. And so I understood that, and I just asked him, I said, do you need me to go out? I said, because if you really need me to, I'll do it for you. I said, but I don't really want to backslide on the stance that I took about not going out until I got paid, because I think that delegitimizes my whole stance. He assured me that it was fine that I didn't go out. He was going to do sections of it that didn't require a lot of moving parts and just do what he could. So Matt went out and did the pipeline by himself. Anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead of that. Lori texted me and asked me if I'd be going out with Matt the following day, which was August 9th. I informed her via text message while I was in the middle of a meeting for the droning company that I was not going out until I was paid and reimbursed for what I was owed. I made it very, very clear again. She asked if I could chat, and I said to her, as soon as I'm done with this meeting, we'll chat. So at 4 o'clock then, when the meeting wrapped, I gave Lori a call, and she expressed that she felt like we weren't on the same page. She thought that the conversation we had earlier in the day meant that I would be going out into the field. And that's when I explained to her the reason that I'm not working on good faith anymore is because the goalposts have been moved continually, day after day after day. I don't know what to believe anymore. You keep telling me a deadline, and then you change the deadline. So there's no more good faith. There's no more of that for me. If you want me to come back to work, you got to pay me. It's that simple. It's that simple. She pushed back a little bit, but it wasn't anything too ridiculous. I can't even remember how the pushback was. It was that, non-consequential. And we ended the phone call. That was it. The only contact that I've had with anybody from DarkPulse other than Matt Coppage was August 11th, when I followed up on that promise of payment by Friday. That was August the 11th. We didn't get paid on the 11th. I wouldn't be here probably making this video with such intense compassion and such a time investment. Where are we at right now? An hour into it. I wouldn't be here doing this if we had been paid. I probably would have framed it a lot differently. Not to deceive you or deceive you, but more so just not so harsh. To this day, Since we are past August 15th, I am owed a grand total of $4,852.23 because I have not received any type of termination notice. I am still, as far as I'm aware, an employee, a full-time employee of DarkPulse on a salaried position. That might have very well changed after this live stream. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But the fact is, we've missed 2 pay periods while I've been employed for DarkPulse. So I am owed a grand total of $4,852.23. Now, that's the story. I don't really have a lot more to offer. I slated this live stream for about 60 to 90 minutes. We're at 60 minutes right now, roughly. So I'm going to go ahead and open up for questions. What I'll do here is I see we do have a few comments logged on the chat. I'm going to go ahead and just start where we left off and answer some of the questions from some of you in there. Let's see. First question is actually pretty recent. Was DarkPulse paid for the gas pipeline contract? I don't know that. I wish I had answers for you on that, but I cannot confirm or deny that. That's stuff that I wasn't privy to. Keep in mind when you ask these questions, even though Matt was super transparent with me as a boss, just super forthright with everything that's going on and super honest with me, I was still a grunt. I was a low man on the totem pole. So if it was a high-level conversation, more often than not, if it didn't have anything to do directly with me and my employment, I wasn't involved in the conversation. I was just expected to show up, do my job, and go home. That's pretty much that. Let's see if there are any other questions on the phone. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to show that. It doesn't look like there are a lot of other questions. I'm going to take that as... Oh, wait. View deleted message. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes because we are on a 1-minute delay for the chat. I didn't know how many people would be attending. Right now, we've got 36 people. I did put this on a 1-minute delay. So I'm going to just wait a couple minutes here and see if there are any questions that come through. But yeah, I mean, that's my story, man. But like I said, this morning, my StockTwits account was suspended. Again, no skin off my ass. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm not somebody that's going to be on StockTwits anyway. I was merely using it as a tool to monitor StockTwits and communicate with people that really wanted to communicate with me. I will say this, as I'm waiting for people to submit questions, if you choose to, we have lost 4 people in the meantime, so it looks like maybe things are just winding down. If you can't think of a question, or if you have a question after we wrap this all up that pops up, feel free to reach out to me on my social media. I'm thinking about starting a Discord for people in these positions, specifically with DarkPulse. Haven't decided on that yet. I'm sort of in this struggle right now because I have, certainly explored other options for employment for myself. And, I am moving on without getting into too much detail. I am moving on to greener pastures. I feel good about the direction that I personally am going. I know there are a lot of other people that aren't as fortunate as I am, and they're in much harder positions relating to stuff like this with this particular company. But it's a struggle for me because I know I want to do what's right, and what's right is to hold these people accountable and get paid for the time that I'm owed. But at the same time, what's the old saying? You can't get blood from a stone, and it seems like we're dealing with a pretty big stone here. How much energy and time and effort do I really want to exert on this, and how much do I really just want to move on and continue building myself, my brand, and the projects that I'm very passionate about. John K, yeah, I will have this, I believe. If not, feel free to reach out to me. We can get on a call or whatever, and I can sort of run through the timeline for you. But I believe that this will post as a recorded version after the fact. But I'm sorry you jumped on just a few minutes ago, but yeah, we will have this posted on the YouTube channel for the foreseeable future. I don't see a reason to take it down. I just say the foreseeable future because you don't know what I'll run into after all of this. Hard to say. Pretty rock solid. I haven't embellished anything. Everything I've talked about is either my opinion and my opinion alone, or it's a very factual statement about how things played out. I would say just reevaluating everything I talked to you about, I injected probably 15 to 20% of my own opinions and thoughts and feelings on things, and the other 80, 85% was just straight up, this is how it went. So yeah, I mean, you'll get that playback one way or another. We'll make sure that you're informed. So I'm going to give it until 1:15 my time, 15 past the top of the hour, to address any more questions that you might have. It's 1:08 right now, so you got about 7 minutes. If I don't see any questions in the chat between now and then, I will just go ahead and wrap things up, because I do have to get on to some other things in my day today, but I would be remiss if I didn't take the time to talk about this. Cool. I'm glad to hear that, Jason. I really am. I know that there have been a lot of things said about me as a professional, as a creator on StockTwits. Most of them good. A lot of you have shown a lot of genuine excitement about some of the things that I have to say and some of the information that I might have. But some of you even still took the time to try to tear me down a little bit. Again, you're sort of up against a force you've not been up against. I don't have the anonymity that a lot of people on the StockTwits page do have to sort of protect themselves. But I'll tell you what, got thick skin. Got real thick skin. So, yeah. Yep. I'm just going to read down through the comments here. Show us your boobies. Nope. You're going to have to subscribe to my OnlyFans. Oh, that was one thing I wanted to address here while we are waiting. A lot of you very kindly have reached out to me anonymously, as well as identifying yourselves, and you're asking me how you can help me. And you feel bad that I've been shorted money. You want to know how much I'm owed so that you can try to help me out. There are people that need more help than I do. I appreciate you asking me that. I am not expecting payment from anybody else other than DarkPulse. Those are the only people that I want to take payment from. If you really feel so inclined that you do want to help me out financially, I have a donation button on my website, thedronegeek.org. Feel free to go there and donate. But I just ask that, don't do it. Don't just do it just because. Take in some of my content. I don't charge. There's no paywalls in front of the content that I produce, and there never will be. I will never subscribe to that business model. I think it's stupid. I think it's ridiculous, especially since I'm monetized on YouTube. I've got other ways that I can earn money off of this platform and off of the other platforms that I work on. It'd be stupid for me to hide my content from people, especially since there are hundreds of other people out there making the same type of content that I make. So I don't put my content behind paywalls. But if you decide that you want to donate to me and contribute money to that button that I have on my website, excuse me, I've been drinking carbonated water for the past hour, and so I'm a little burpy. Sorry. But if you do want to contribute, I just ask, watch one video. Just take the time. You may not be super invested in drones, but I promise you'll learn something. You will learn something by watching my channel or reading a blog that I posted. There's value in what I do, and that's how I want to earn my money, is I want to provide an inherent value to people and have them feel so informed and feel like they got so much value out of what I do that they're inclined to contribute, or they're inclined to watch the whole way through so that I get a kickback on my Google AdSense. That's really what I'm here to do with this platform. No illusions of grandeur there. So let's see, are there any more? Ken Evans, is Matt still with DarkPulse? As far as I know, yes, Matt is still employed with DarkPulse. DP played us for 2 months. Glad you stopped after a short time. Yeah, Optilian guy. I've read about what happened. And, just reading from the outside in, some resources that I've found just doing my own snooping. I don't have enough knowledge to be able to sit here and really, truly, get into the weeds with you on that conversation. But just know that my heart goes out to you guys, man. That sucks. That sucks really bad. And that's what I mean when I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm not trying to minimize anybody else's struggle by making a show out of what I've gone through. I know that there are people out there that have had it a lot tougher than I have, and they're a lot more frustrated than I am. But I have a platform, and I talked about this company in a video that I did earlier, recently, sort of putting them in a positive spotlight in the opportunity they gave me to fly a very large platform in the M300 and do a different type of drone work that I've never done before. Now that the conversation has changed and it seems like I am no longer their priority, I felt inclined to come in and set the record straight. I am not a bootlicker. I am not a corporate puppy. I'm not any of those things. I am a working class blue collar guy. I work some white collar in my life. I've got experience doing that, but my roots are founded in blue collar work. I grew up in the middle of central Pennsylvania. Again, I'm the kid from two entrepreneurs. One's an entrepreneur / full-time school teacher. the value instilled in me has always been your number one expense. The first thing you take care of is your employees. Your payroll has to happen first, because without them, your company's nothing. And I am a firm believer in that. It's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Yeah, I mean, getting on with life, and that's sort of where I'm at too, man. Like, you know, you got to get on with life. I can't sit here and stick on this. This might be, depending upon how things play out. I would say as it stands right now, this will probably be the last time I speak. This is the first and last time that I speak publicly on this. I'm not going to expend any more energy or any more bandwidth on my platform that's dedicated to drone work, the UAV industry, on this situation. Doesn't mean I'm giving up. I am going to continue to push. As of last night, I have officially filed a fair labor complaint with the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. So I do have that submitted with them. I don't know what will come of that. This is so outside of the norm of what I've been taught and what I've been shown and what I've learned about how to run a business that I have no idea what to expect at this point. It's bizarre. It is bizarre to me. So yeah, we have officially filed a fair labor complaint with the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I imagine it'll probably be sometime next week that they'll get back to me. If not, I will call them towards the end of the week just to see if they can reference my complaint, if we can talk about it, or they can put me in touch with a resource that can actually help me. As far as like legal counsel goes, I haven't really seriously sought that out yet. I've definitely explored some options that might be available to me, but I really don't want to go down that road if I can help it. I'd rather just be paid what I'm owed and move on. That's it. That's how I'd like this to all be sorted out. That's it. So, yeah. Okay, we're at 1:14. So I am going to go ahead and just wrap things up, give you my spiel. We're at 24 people. Hey, I want to say thank you guys so much for coming, showing up, and watching this. I know it was long-winded. I know that I sort of waffled a little bit. When I'm not able to edit my cuts and stuff like that, it is hard to keep a direct train of thought and keep things moving in a straightforward direction. But I'm glad you hung with me. I'm glad you let me work it out for myself. Really appreciate the time you took to watch this. This is great to know that I do have a community behind me. I know that I've got a great support system personally in my own life. You know, things are I'm going to land on my feet, and all of you will too, no matter how it plays out. Just know this. I mentioned this before, and this isn't a threat. This is more so just food for thought. I am a well-connected individual in the UAV industry. Very well-connected. A lot of people look up to me, look highly on me, look at me in a positive light. And I'm not saying that to, toot my own horn. It's the facts. I've had a lot of interaction with a lot of people, and I've developed a lot of really great relationships with people in the industry, some very influential people at that. One way or another, this won't go unaddressed. This will not go unaddressed. So just be clear on that. Just be clear on that. Probably not the greatest person if you're getting into UAV ops to screw over. Just going to say that out loud. So yeah, anyway, 1:15, 1:16. I got to move on with my life. I can't dwell on this any longer today. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you have any questions that you didn't get a chance to ask on this stream, or if they come up later down the road, feel free to message me on any of my social media platforms. Big help to me will be identifying who you are. I'm not telling anybody anything. I'm going to keep identity secret in terms of any type of questions that you have for me. That's not going to be something that I'm going to narc on. So please identify yourselves so that I know who I'm talking to, who I'm working with. I'll be happy to inform you of anything that you might have missed in this stream, or answer any questions you didn't get a chance to ask during this this stream. Who's John K? Stick with AG route. The company will listen to them and will not run afoul in employment law. Good to know. Good to know. I appreciate that, John K. Marzina, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Marzina, thank you so much. I try, not perfect. I mess up sometimes too, but I try to uphold a very high level of moral integrity as much as I can. So yeah, again, reach out to me if you feel free, if you feel so inclined. Make sure you identify yourselves just so I have a little bit more comfortability in those interactions. And, again, if you do feel inclined to help me out financially, I'm not asking you to. I'm not suggesting you should. Just take in some of my content first and then visit thedronegeek.org. And there's a donation button there that you can click at the bottom of the homepage, and feel free. Again, not necessary at all. I'm not asking for it. I don't expect it. So that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much, and good luck to all of you out there. Really appreciate it.